Recording is started. Good morning, everybody. I'm calling this meeting of the Public Safety Communications Task Force to order. It's 8:09 on December 15th, 2023, and I'm Barbara Neal. As a reminder, the meeting is being recorded, and that recording will be posted on the task force webpage following the meeting. Let's start with a roll call. If you could verbally acknowledge your presence when I call your name, that would be great. Jen Morrison.
I am here.
Okay. Ron Kumitz.
I am here as well.
Morning. Jim Mack. We didn't hear you, Jim. Are you here? We still can't hear you, but I can see you acknowledging that you're here.
Wait until he starts waving his arms frantically.
I can read lips, and he's here for sure.
He is here for sure, but we still can't hear you, Jim. So I think you have some audio issue going on, but we'll move forward. We don't have this morning Paul White, Michael Wright, or Mike Dunges at this point. So joining us also, of course, is Kelly Audette, our administrative support person. And I see we have several members of the public, or a couple members of the public, with us this morning. Stephen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Not necessary.
Not necessary. Okay, fair enough. Philip Sisk.
Yes, good morning. Phil Sisk here, representing myself today out of personal interest.
Okay, good enough. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you.
All right. Approval of the agenda. The agenda was distributed to the task force members last week by email and is also available on our website. Do task force members have any changes to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, we'll consider the agenda approved and move on to public comment. We have just a couple people, so we could do 5 minutes each. For public comment. Stephen, would you like to start?
Sure. Just a minor correction. I think that the agenda was distributed this week because this is a special meeting.
I stand corrected.
No big deal. So I want to raise some kind of things you may have heard before, or they may be slightly more refined. We don't have a work plan yet, and hiring a project manager without a work plan risks, unless their first task is to go and invent their own work plan, everything would continue to have to be done in these task force meetings, which would be a load, actually more work for you than you're already doing. I have proposed tabling the little RFP, as you call it, and until we have a scope of work or we find a unquestionably qualified candidate for project manager, we consider reorganizing how we do this. I think if you get your subject matter experts on board and begin to mine their expertise and recommendations on how to craft a work plan, even a work plan for a project manager or a program manager, that's going to get us off the quickest start. We're still idling at the starting line, and it's extremely frustrating and not flattering to the legislative oversight. So the deadlines all need to be moved in legislation, and that needs to be done sooner than later. There's a report due from the Joint Fiscal Office in January. There's a report due from this body in January. And you don't have anything to show for all the 6 months that we worked. So again, I'm saying that a change to the legislation might be that we set aside the little RFP. What we need more is a trusted, known, well-versed in exactly what we're up to here, program manager, and each of the SMEs that are hired will have their own project manager. So I think we may need to rethink how we're going about this. What I don't want to see is currently the law does not give this task force control over the 9 million congressionally directed spending. I believe that the perception is, or the understanding is, that this task force has already signed off and it is now entirely in the Department of Public Safety's court and discretion. I think that's a mistake, for one, because they don't have a plan and they can't possibly do a credible independent expert review because there is no implementation plan. So what I would like to see is the legislation modified to give this task force oversight of that 9 million, even if we have to restructure how we spend it. We may not have, we certainly cannot start spending it on radio systems that before the plans are written. That would be the absurd example of cart before the horse. These LMR systems, owned by both the states and the regions, and the microwave backup systems and trunking systems, are all going to be essential elements of these integrated plans. So to go out and start making decisions and building pieces before we've written a plan, and there are clearly no plans. I've done a records request of public safety, and they've admitted there are no plans. No such plans exist. So I believe what's going to happen is the independent expert review is going to end up tabling that process, and this needs to be fixed. So I'm asking y'all, I'm giving you specific recommendations, and having spent a lot of time thinking about it and trying to craft solutions, that we table the project manager RFP and we get the SMEs on board to help start crafting a scope of work for a project manager and the sequencing of events and task orders. And we ask the legislature to move the deadlines out and give the task force jurisdiction over the 9 million. We may end up just having to buy some towers and generators and batteries and small cells with the 9 million in order to get it spent during 2024, depending on how quickly subject matter experts can craft plans. But you haven't even adopted interim standards. You know, it's frustrating to see the function. And I also would explore expanding this task force to get some more engineering types and less political types in order to keep this ball rolling and not make it so difficult to get a quorum. That's probably enough for now.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Philip, do you have any comments to add?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, that brings us to the next agenda item, which is to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing one or more contracts. I'll start like I always do by making a motion that the task force find that sharing information about bidder presentations and responses publicly would put the task force at a substantial disadvantage in making a decision about awarding a contract to any of the bidders on the to bidders on any of the RFPs that we have out at the moment. Is there a second? Jen,
I'll second
thank you. Okay, I think I saw Jen first. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Aye.
Thank you, Ron. I didn't see your hand, so good, perfect. Okay, so we've made that finding. The next step is I will make a motion that we move into executive session for the purposes of discussing one or more contracts.
Seconded.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Jim. All in favor, please raise your hand or indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All righty.
Aye.
Aye. I see all task force members have voted in favor. So we will move to executive session via the other link. And Callie, we can notify Phil and Stephen when we're coming back into regular, into the public session.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can do that.
All right, thank you. We'll see everybody over in the executive session link.